Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to share something with you that honestly changed my entire perspective on life, and I think it might just do the same for you. This is a story about a young guy who thought his problems were way too big to handle, but he didn't realize something incredibly powerful. Most of the struggles we face aren't nearly as overwhelming as they seem, and the solutions are often hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to notice them. By the end of this story, you're going to see your own challenges in a completely different light. So get comfortable, clear your mind, and stay with me until the very last word, because this one hits different. There was this kid named Ethan who lived in a quiet little town somewhere in rural Pennsylvania. The kind of place surrounded by rolling farmland and endless open skies. Ethan was smart, no doubt about it, but he had this one problem that held him back from everything. He worried constantly, about everything. Even the tiniest inconvenience felt like the end of the world to him. If it was too hot outside, he'd groan and say, "How is anyone supposed to function in this heat?" If his teacher assigned an essay, he'd throw his hands up and complain, "This is literally impossible, I can't do this." If his mom asked him to help out around the house, he'd mumble under his breath, "Why does everything have to be so hard for me?" Day after day, week after week, Ethan's complaining got worse. And you know what happened? People started avoiding him. Friends stopped inviting him to hang out. His family got tired of hearing the negativity. Because let's be real, nobody wants to be around someone who only sees problems and never solutions. One evening, Ethan's dad had finally had enough of listening to his son's constant sighing and complaining. He looked at Ethan and said, "Come on, let's go. I need to show you something important." Ethan didn't really want to go, but something in his dad's voice told him this wasn't optional. They walked for what felt like forever, past the old barn, through the fields, until they finally arrived at a small pond tucked away at the edge of town. The water was completely still, almost like glass. Ethan's dad reached into his pocket and pulled out a small handful of salt. He handed it to Ethan and said, "Throw this in the water." Ethan shrugged and tossed the salt into the pond, watching the ripples spread across the surface. Then his dad said, "Now taste it." Ethan knelt down, cupped his hand, took a sip, and immediately spit it out. "Ooh, Dad, that's disgusting. It's so bitter." His father just nodded slowly, like he expected that exact reaction. Then, without saying a word, he handed Ethan another handful of salt and started walking toward the wide river that ran alongside the town. The kind of river that stretched as far as you could see in both directions. When they reached the riverbank, his dad said, "Now throw this one in here," and did as he was told, watching the salt disappear into the massive current. His father turned to him and said, "Go ahead, taste the water." Ethan bent down, took a drink from the river, and looked up completely surprised. "Wait, this tastes totally normal. I can't even taste the salt." His dad smiled, the kind of smile that comes from years of understanding life's deeper truths, and he said something that would echo in Ethan's mind for the rest of his life. "Son, the problems you face in life are just like that salt. They're always going to be there. The amount doesn't change. But how much they affect you, how bitter they make your life, that depends entirely on the size of your heart. If you keep your heart small and tight like that little pond, every single problem is going to make your whole life taste bitter. But if you expand your heart, make it wide and deep like this river, those same problems barely make a dent. You won't even notice the bitterness because you've become too big for them to overwhelm you." Those words hit Ethan like a freight train. For the first time in his life, he realized something profound. Maybe the world wasn't out to get him. Maybe life wasn't unfairly hard. Maybe, just maybe, the real problem wasn't what was happening to him, but how he was choosing to react to it. That night, lying in his bed staring at the ceiling, Ethan couldn't stop replaying that moment by the river in his head. He whispered to himself in the darkness, "If I stay like that pond, small and closed off, I'm going to keep suffering. But if I become like the river, open and flowing. I can handle absolutely anything that comes my way. The next morning, something shifted inside Ethan. He made a decision. He was going to change, one small step at a time. When his English teacher announced a 10-page research paper due in 2 weeks, his old instinct was to panic and complain. But instead, he took a deep breath and thought to himself, "This is my opportunity to level up. This is how I get better." When his mom asked him to help carry in groceries from the car, instead of rolling his eyes, he smiled and thought, "This is how I build strength, not just in my body but in my character." Even when the summer sun was beating down on his back while he mowed the lawn, instead of complaining about the heat, he told himself, "This is just another test, and I'm going to pass it. Now I'm not going to lie to you, it wasn't easy at first." Old habits die hard. There were moments when he wanted to fall back into that complaining mindset, when he wanted to throw his hands up and say it's all too much. But every single time he felt himself slipping, he remembered standing by that river with his dad. He remembered the taste of that pond water versus the fresh taste of the river. And he pushed himself forward. Weeks turned into months, and something absolutely incredible started happening. Ethan began to transform right before everyone's eyes. He wasn't that negative kid anymore who saw obstacles everywhere. People noticed the change. His friends started reaching out again, wanting to hang out and be around his new energy. His teachers saw his effort and pulled him aside to tell him how proud they were of his growth. His parents watched in amazement as their son became someone they barely recognized in the best possible way. But most importantly, and this is the key, Ethan felt different inside. He felt lighter, freer, more capable. The problems didn't stop coming, of course they didn't. Life still threw curveballs. There were still difficult exams, family issues, days when nothing seemed to go right. But here's the thing, he wasn't drowning in them anymore. He had become like that river, flowing around obstacles, carrying challenges with ease instead of being crushed by their weight. One evening, as the sun was setting behind the distant hills painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Ethan found himself sitting alone by that same river. He watched the water move constantly forward, carrying leaves and sticks and small stones along with it, never stopping, never complaining, just flowing. He smiled to himself and whispered, "Every problem has a solution, and it's so much simpler than I thought. It's not about getting rid of the salt. It's not about making life easy. It's about becoming the river. It's about growing so big inside that nothing can make you bitter anymore." So here's what I want you to take away from this story. Life is always going to bring challenges. That's a guarantee. Some days are going to test you. Some nights are going to feel impossibly long. You're going to face rejection, disappointment, failure, and moments where you want to give up. But here's the truth that most people miss. The answer isn't to complain your way through it. The answer isn't to run away or pretend the problems don't exist. The answer is to grow, to expand your capacity, to open your heart wider and face whatever comes with a calm, steady mindset. Because here's the powerful truth that changed everything for Ethan and can change everything for you. Problems don't shrink, they just don't, but we grow. And when we grow big enough, every problem that once seemed impossible becomes manageable. Every mountain that looked too steep becomes just another hill to climb. So the next time you feel stuck, overwhelmed, buried under stress and anxiety, I want you to stop and ask yourself this one simple question. Am I being the pond right now, or am I being the river? Are you letting every little grain of salt make your whole life bitter, or are you flowing forward with enough space in your heart to carry it all without breaking? That choice, my friends, that choice is yours to make every single day. Choose to be the river. Choose to grow. And watch how everything changes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.